Hello, all you beautiful people of the internet, and Jason.
Hello.
Today is new project today. BA Falcon on the trailer. We have just picked this thing up from around the corner, actually, for free. Reason why it is for free, you will find out right about now. So yeah, she's pretty knocky, and she's pretty rough too. Oh, and that tyre did go flat. Pumped that up before, but it's gone down again. So obviously this thing needs an engine, but we got this thing for nothing. So it's pretty rough. It's got a few marks and scratches and damage and stuff all over it. This door is not great. But the plan is, depending how today goes, obviously front bar's missing as well, we're going to get this thing up on the lift and just see how bad it is, probably extremely. Everything engine-wise we're not too concerned about, but we're going to see where it is, like suspension-wise and stuff like that, because Jason wants to turn this into a drift car, so him and I can go door-to-door drifting.
Sure do.
So that would be very, very fun. And if we do that with this, we'll end up doing a build series on this. So that's the plan. We've also got to check the transmission. This thing is auto. The plan is, if it is going to work out, we will manual convert it down the track, but he'll probably do his first event with this thing as an auto. But you go on any sort of angle whatsoever and the auto loses drive and reverse and drive. So we want to check out the auto as well. So yeah, let's just get it up on the lift and have a bit of a look over it. Underneath, inside wise, it's full of cobwebs. It needs a window regulator. The front door switches have been removed. It had no front seats in it, but Jason has got a couple of XR seats, which are a bit rough, but they're going to be good enough. So we've just thrown the driver's seat in it for now. It is full of cobwebs, full of parts. Oh, its back door's locked. But anyway, let's get it on the lift and have a look. They've got this absolute turd set up. I mean, beautiful car set up on the hoist. First inspections, checked brake fluid. It's yuck. I did put a little bit of coolant in it just because it was empty, and just if we're going to be moving the thing around, I don't want to run it dry. Filled up the washer bottle, so that's good. So let's lift the thing up now and see what's happening underneath. So checking steering and suspension stuff on this car, the first thing we've checked is the ball joints in the front end. How I check these is I have the wheel a couple of inches off the ground, and I get a big pry and I go underneath and try and lever up on the wheel. Ball joints in this thing are good, but this wheel bearing is stuffed. So it's going to need a new wheel bearing in that side. This one is got a tiny bit of play, so I'd say both front wheel bearings. Front struts are not leaking, which is good. Freaked out when I tested this, because there is a lot of play in this wheel. But if you have a look under the back of the car, we are missing the nut for the lower control arm. Normally you grab these things at about 11 and 5 and jiggle the wheel, and if you get a bit of play, that's your upper outer rose joints. Very common on Falcons, but rose joints on this seem to be okay. So there's no play there either. Normally you get a bit of a knock, or you can even just grab the wheel and sort of hug it and give it a hard jolt up, and that will let you know your lower outer rose joint is stuffed. So we'll continue going up, we'll check some more stuff. Righto, so starting at the front, leaking, don't care. Everything front end wise actually doesn't look too bad on this thing. All the brakes on it are new as well, which is good. There's just a lot of surface rust on the rotors because this thing has been sitting around for a while, but it's got a full new set of pads in it, and I've measured all the rotors and they all seem to be close to new, so that's fantastic. So moving towards the center of the car, we've got a leak from the back of the extension housing. As I said before, this thing is not wanting to stay in gear. So we'll come back to this. Tail shaft center bearing is good. It's only got a little bit of cracking around the top of it. Normally if you pull down on the tail shaft in the center, they'll crack across the top here. When you see daylight through them, that's when they're really, really bad. This tail shaft donut looks like it's fairly new as well, so that's awesome. Moving to the rear end, the rear sway bar is missing, but we do have it. We just forgot to pick it up from the guy's house when they picked up the car. So that's not a big deal. As far as all the rose joints and stuff go, everything all looks pretty good. These are blade arms, and then you have a big bush that goes up in the center of the arm. When they're new, this aluminium arm that goes through the center of the bush is supposed to be in the center, and when they fail, the housing of the center of the bush hits the outer housing or the outer rim, and it creates knocking, and it also makes the back wheels sort of rock backwards and forwards. So it's going to need blade bushes, and it's also going to need diff bushes. So you have a diff bush here, you have another one up in here behind the fuel tank, and then you've got your main one on the back, and you can just test them by prying on the diff, and when they move as much as that, and you can hear it knocking, you know the bushes are torn. And if you actually look up in there, you can actually see it's torn the center out of the bush. I don't know if you can see that. I'll do that. But anyway, there's that bolt for the lower control arm that's just hanging out. So we'll try and knock that through and put a bolt on it for now. So what we're going to do while we've got this thing on the hoist is we're just going to do a quick transmission service on it. So we've got a cheap transmission service kit sitting on the bench over there. We'll drop the pan off it, see what the condition of it's like, see if the pan is full of clutch material, so like metallic-y stuff, because if this thing is going to need a transmission as well, it's probably going to blow the budget on this car. The fact that everything else on it's pretty good is good, but we're going to do that while we've got it on the hoist. I had the filter in stock and I've got heaps of oil, so yeah, we'll bust this pan off and have a look, see what's going on, and if it's not too bad, we might even put a seal in the back of the transmission. So I've just pulled the fill plug out of the auto and there's no fluid coming out of it as yet. So basically, when you fill these things up, you fill them up till fluid comes out of this hole. Then you drop them out, drop them down, start them up. I normally run them through the gears, get the engine up to temperature a bit. And then, so basically the pump is sucking fluid up, and then I'll lift them back up while they're in neutral. You fill them back up again from here. And normally once the engine's running, you can probably get about another litre roughly in them. So the fact that no fluid is coming out of it when the car is off tells me that the fluid is quite low. And even if I stick my finger right in there, I still can't even get any fluid on the tip of my finger. So anyway, we'll pull this pan off and see what the colour of the fluid looks like. I had a bit of a dig around as well, and I've got a new seal in stock for the back of the transmission too. So if it comes good, we'll throw that in it as well. Transmission oil is definitely dirty, and it's slightly metallic-y, but it's not too bad. I have seen worse. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to drop this pan down and clean it out, and then I'm actually going to fill the transmission back up, just run it for a bit, and then we'll drop the pan again and do the filter just to try and flush it out a little bit. Got the pan cleaned out. There wasn't any big chunks or anything in here, just a tiny bit of metallic-y residue in just a couple of these ribs, but stuff all. So hopefully we'll be okay. So I'm going to bang that back on now and fill it back up with the old filter. And then we'll run it for a bit, and then we'll drain it again, pull the pan back off, and yeah, give it a proper service. Right, yeah, so we've fully filled the auto and run it through the gears. But as you can see, we're leaking coolant. And if you look up in the center of the screen there, it's coming out the drain hole focus. It's coming out the drain hole for the heater core. So we're going to need to figure out how to do something with that, because if we pull the pan back off now, it's just going to all trickle down into the transmission pan. So we might just drop it back down and bypass it. You don't need a heater, do you? No. All right, our coolant leak is temporarily, permanently fixed. So basically that hose looped up onto one of the heater tap outlets, and there's another fitting that comes off down here. It goes up onto the other one, and I literally have just looped it around. So that just means when we pull this engine out, we don't have to disconnect heater hoses, Jason. Forward planning.
How good.
We don't need a heater for a drift car anyway. All right, so now back to the transmission. Transmission oil color is looking better. It's still fairly dark, but definitely nowhere near as bad as what it was. So we'll let this all drain out. We'll clean the pan out, do the filter and all that stuff. It's all apart. Old filter in the bin. New filter's here, about to go on. Pan's cleaned out again. New gasket sitting on there. So yeah, we'll give this a bit of a clean out. We'll bang it back on. We're also going to put some Lucas transmission fix in. This stuff is gold. I really like using this, especially in Commodores and Falcons and the 4-speeds. Really, really good stuff, but it is super thick. So I always tip it into here first and then put that back up on the car. So we'll tip that in there, put that on that. And before we fill it up, we'll chuck the new seal on the back of the transmission and cross fingers. All right, got the tail shaft out, just so I can knock a new seal into the back of this quickly, just to stop that really bad leak. We've already given it a bit of a clean down, but it's already quite wet again. So yeah, we'll do that quickly and throw it back together, fill it up and hope for the best. Done. Transmission's all done. We've just run it through the gears on the hoist and it's going into second, third and fourth, whereas before it didn't even go into second. So that's good. Before it would go first and then when it went to shift to second, it would just feel like it was in neutral. So that's good. We're just doing a brake fluid flush just for fun and the brake fluid was like mud. And Jason went out to his block and found another wheel to put on there, another 17-inch alloy to put on the back there, because it had a spare on it. So yeah, that's basically it. We'll just finish off doing the brake fluid flush, put the wheels on it and take it out to the farm to test it. Shush. Feels like a transmission. Good. Is it getting gears?
Every gear.
Fantastic. Fixed. So that's just gone about do us for this episode, guys. We've had a pretty productive first. We've only been on this thing for not even 2.5 hours from the time we've picked it up to the time we're back here. And we've had a bit of a productive time during that time. When we get around to getting into this thing and getting it done, we're going to smash this thing out and try and get it done as quickly as possible. So it's probably going to be like a 2 or 3 day build. It's going to take us a bit of time to gather parts and everything that we need to make it happen. But we've done a heater core bypass. We've fixed that transmission issue. And we've even done a brake fluid flush. We even put a brake light globe in it and filled the washer bottle and checked the tire pressures. So the thing's basically roadworthy now. So yeah, transmission's working well, so it's going to be good enough for Jason's first couple of events. So yeah, just make sure you hit the notification icon so when this thing we get stuck into it, you guys will know about it. And if you want to see more content like this, please remember to like and subscribe as always, and also follow us on our socials. Take care of yourselves and each other till I see you next time.